Hi, beautiful souls, and my lovely friends on the interweb. Welcome back to this channel on astrology, human design, gene keys, life, love, and a space for the wild hearts. Today, I want to talk about a very near and dear topic to my heart. I've been getting a lot of questions about this, so I thought it would be time to talk about it. The true whole story of why and how I left my full-time job and what I'm currently doing now to sustain myself, the struggles, the celebrations, the rewards, and the lessons that I've gained from this whole journey. So, the story began with leaving high school. We can say that's how it usually starts. I have a degree in architecture. So, I studied design and architecture in university for 4 years in Thailand, in Chulalongkorn University in Thailand. And I didn't like it. So I struggled, like the first 2 years of my university life was a big struggle. But I kind of started working hard again during the last 2 years of my university life because my parents were complaining about my grades. And I was like, okay, I might as well, it's almost over. I might as well just do my best to try to graduate with the best possible score that I could. So I did that and graduated from university with a degree in architecture. And I never got a job as an architect or a designer or anything like that after that. My first job, I went straight into being a TV news reporter. But that didn't last very long because it was very tiring for me. And at the same time, the channel was sort of not being supported financially by the government anymore. And it was just kind of like going downhill. So I decided to leave, and I had a couple of other jobs after that. But the longest full-time job that I've ever had was being an English teacher. So I was an English teacher in Malaysia and Singapore. I was basically, teaching in Malaysia. I was teaching English for adults and for speakers of English as a second language. And in Singapore, I was teaching English to kids. And both of these jobs, there were two major reasons why I left it. One was a reason that had to do with my own life purpose, my own energy alignment. And the second reason was because of the way that I couldn't find value in the work anymore. So you guys have maybe already heard about the first one, which was how intensive teaching can be and how, like, when you are a teacher, especially when I was teaching, I was required to teach the entire day. And sometimes I'd have back-to-back classes for 6 hours straight. And so that really did a toll on my health. And of course, when I was in my early, 20s, when this first started, it still felt okay. But I remembered there was this one day where I had severe period cramps and I had to go in to teach. And I remember that it was so severe that I couldn't teach, that I was at the teacher's lounge and I had like my head on the table like that. And the director of studies came, and he was a very compassionate boss. So he was like, okay, don't worry about it. I'll get somebody else to substitute for you. You should just take a rest and maybe go and get like some medication for it or something like that. And so that was a point in my life where I had these intense period cramps every single month, and I had to take painkillers every time they came, every single month, because I didn't know any better. But so that was the first sign that things were not aligning. And when I was teaching 6 hours in a row, what also happened was that when I was teaching kids, you can't really leave the classroom. Otherwise, they go a little bit crazy no matter the amount of rules you put there. You have to come back and deal with the consequences later, you could say. And sometimes they were really young. Like I had kids that were from, I can't remember exactly, but like 5 or 6 years old all the way until 18. So the really young ones, you really couldn't leave. And the thing was that being a human design projector, I didn't really have the, go, go, go type of energy, right? So I would drink coffee to help get me through. And of course, drinking coffee stimulates my bladder even more. And the more my bladder is stimulated, the more that I have to go to the bathroom even more often. So I would have like these bladder pangs every 30 minutes. And that was insane to have to leave the classroom like every 30 minutes, right? But if I didn't drink coffee, I would fall asleep. Like I remember sitting in the cafeteria of the school and with my head on the table like that and falling asleep. And so I was like, all right, and I was drinking 3 or 4 cups of coffee a day, which is way too much. So that happened. And of course, I would try my best to hold my bladder, but it eventually backfired. And I got a bladder infection for the very first time in my life when I was about, I guess it was 28 years old. I had never had a bladder infection ever before that. And because of the way that I was really hustling and holding my bladder, and it was just not normal, I got my first ever bladder infection. And so that was the physical buildup. And of course, there was the physical buildup lead to the emotional buildup, which was, me going home every day crying before I have to go to work and really not wanting to have to do it anymore. The other reason for it was that when I was teaching in Singapore, I saw how the education system worked. So what I was noticing, what I was doing was that I was put into a position where like I was teaching English for students when they are changing from primary school to secondary school. And there were, secondary schools that are considered on top of the list. And, parents really pushed their kids to try to get into the better schools. And the kinds of schools that these kids would be transferring to, whether it's going to be the top of the list or down the bottom of the list, was dependent on their test scores. And I was basically the teacher who was teaching them how to score higher in these tests. And these kids were 10, 11 years old. And I could remember how stressed out they were. They spent their Sundays, some of them probably Saturdays too, to go to these schools and these tutoring lessons for their test at 11 years old. At a time when I believe they need to be playing, they need to be creative, they need to be exploring the world around them, their environment, not sitting in a classroom for so many hours in a day on their weekend to study into these tests because their parents think that it's what's best for them. And I feel that a lot of it has to do also with the way that we as a society view our image and the way that we want to fit in to certain social circles, and we, not to say that this is a conscious act, but it does happen that we use our children to elevate our self-confidence, self-esteem, social life. And it's not a great thing to do. And the thing is that, like, the generational wounds, the ancestral karma that exists in every single family in the world, and that is dishonesty. And it starts with dishonesty with the self. And that means lying to yourself, right? We lie to ourselves and we say, this is what's best for our kid. And though a part of that may be true, but there is another part of that is really about our own need to fit in and to feel confident. Because we haven't done the inner healing work to work on ourselves. And, well, we have a kid here in front of us. And it's so much easier to control another person than to control ourselves. It's so much easier to say, let them work on themselves. Let them do the test. Let them prove than to say that I have to do the test of myself, that I have to work on my need to prove. That's much harder to do. That is feels like an attack on our ego. So yeah, that was what I saw happening, and I loved those kids that I was teaching. They're so sweet. They're so sweet. They would bring me gifts and they would say, "Thank you, Miss Tan, for helping me with my test. I got this score, that school." But I also saw a lot of them were so depressed coming into that classroom. And, some kids, when they're depressed, they hide away. They don't do their homework. And then their parents blame them for not doing the homework. But, kids are innocent. And when their body doesn't feel aligned with something, they don't lie. They can't force themselves to do it. And that is a part of the human nature that a lot of us have lost too. But I also saw that a lot of the kids that came in, because they didn't want to do this, they rebelled. They were extremely naughty. They were competitive, even a little bit aggressive. Not physically, but just like sometimes even like the way they, their presence, their aura was like a bully, to other kids, because they just really didn't want to come here, didn't want to spend their Sundays like this. I thought to myself, I can't support this. This doesn't align with my beliefs. This is not how I want to teach or what I want to teach. And I even remember that I was in one classroom with like 18-year-olds, so they were studying for university, I remember that I made a joke one day because they all looked so depressed, and I was like, oh, come on. But I made a joke one day and I said, you know what? It doesn't matter at the end of the day what kind of university you go to. Most of us don't even have jobs that are related to what we studied anyways. And I remember they looked at me like they couldn't believe that that's possible. What I value is how we can show the youngsters, the youth, the possibilities of life rather than the lack of life. And once they lose that part of themselves, that part of their life that should be about play, they lose that to become an adult too early. We either do two things. We rebel later on in our life, and that can be even more damaging because there are more consequences there. We might already have a family, or we might already have our own kids, or we might already have a job. Or we continue to suppress that part of us, that inner child part of us, and it collapses inwards. The fire of your inner child burns you from the inside out, and that's when we get health problems. And so I left because nothing was aligning anymore in that sense. And I decided to start making YouTube videos about astrology, because that, and human design, astrology, human design, later on Gene Keys, because human design was the thing that made me realize I was a projector and I didn't need this. There are other ways I could use my energy, that I could do less and be more attractive and experience success in a different way. And astrology helped me to learn about my relationships with other people, learn more about myself. And that is something that I really wish we could teach in all of the schools. I wish that we could learn two more things in school. First is learning about ourselves, learning about personality types, learning about astrology or human design, learning about psychology of ourselves, learning about embodiment, learning about our bodies. And the second thing is, I really wish that in school we could be learning about relationships, how to have an open conversation with another person, how to be honest in our relationship. What does real intimacy really mean? How to raise kids, how to raise our kids, Now, maybe not early in school, but like a school for that. There probably is. But to have an element of, okay, that is, relational themes are so important in our life, right? And so if you're listening and, you have some kind of power to be able to change the education system, this is my invitation for you to take up this offer and do something about this. Because a lot of the unhappiness that we see in the world is because, one, we have lost our inner child. We all need space for that. We lost our innocence, our play. What is life without play and laughter and colors and art and creativity? Can you imagine your world was filled with adults? There were no kids, or there was no adult that, was in touch with their inner child. There was no art. There was no music. There was no sense of innocence or play. What was I saying? I think I lost my train of thought there. Yes, a lot of the unhappiness in the world. 2, we're too serious about life. This kind of related to the first one. We're way too serious. And this seriousness leads to living life with lack, living life out of survival. This is why we're so unhappy. We feel that life is so unsafe. We've lost our trust in the world. And that is also because we lost the childhood there. Think about it. These kids are, forced to go to these classes. And that doesn't feel safe for them because now it's either I go to a high ranking school or I go to a lower ranking school, and my parents are not going to approve if I go to a lower ranking school. And so they're now living in fear. They've learned to do that since they were young. And the body remembers things that the mind cannot even remember. And so growing up to become adults, the body still finds it hard to trust, to find it hard to feel like the world is a safe place. The body doesn't change that easily. It may take 7 years, right? Because our cell memory, it takes, 7 years for it to reprogram itself. So that takes healing work. And when we live in a world where we feel like things are not safe, that we can't really trust anybody, even ourselves, then we have to defend ourselves. And that is what we see a lot. We defend instead of we opening up. We defend, we close off. We take everything personally. It's so hard for us to see things with logic, with more acceptance, with more love, with an attitude of letting things go. Just let it be. Live and let live. Freedom, that's so hard. Freedom is scary. Freedom is not safe. That's what we learned. But love is what's always there in the world if we're open to receiving it. And we cannot receive love if we're always in our mind. So I feel like this video is really, really long. If you're watching this on Instagram, if you're watching this, there's probably going to be a part 2 where I actually tell about what I'm currently doing to make money after leaving my full-time job. The way that I make money now, it's been 6 years. It's been about 6 years since I left my full-time job, which I was in for 6 years. And I'm no longer making income, stable income every month. And yes, it is unstable. And the first, 6 months that I was doing YouTube, I was not really making an income. And then one video really boosted my channel. I think the first video that really went viral was the video on Uranus in Taurus. You're a Taurus girl here. So I made a video about Uranus going to Taurus, and that was the first video that sort of got people coming to my channel. But yes, I make income from YouTube, but that's not a lot currently. I think I just have a variety of different content here, and I think the moment I included human design or gene keys in it, people were kind of like, oh, I just want to watch astrologies. I'm not really sure about human design or gene keys, and so not many people are watching. But it's okay, because I don't believe in doing just astrology. I believe that every astrologer needs to know human design, needs to know gene keys. It is almost crucial. But anyways, that is just my belief. I believe it works that way. You can go much deeper when you know human design and gene keys. You get a more holistic understanding of someone. And so I'm not going to take that off of my channel. And I just kept doing it. I kept doing gene keys and human design. And then I make money from doing readings for clients. I got my first client mid around April of 2019. That's when I had been doing my astrology channel for about 6 months. So the first 6 months was just creating content and putting out content consistently, at least once a week. Sometimes I put out content 2 to 3 times a week. And then I started getting clients. And of course, I was doing readings. And I remember my first ever reading, it took me like a week just to understand the chart, made all the notes, and then I made a recorded, video. It was like a 1 hour video. But it took me a week to make my first reading, and I didn't make that much money. But then things really peaked when during COVID, because I think a lot more people are beginning to look inwards, question life, question their purpose. And so readings started coming in during the COVID period. And that's when I was actually making really good money. And I was living in Thailand at the time, so it was way more money than I needed to be able to live in Bangkok. But then COVID kind of died off, and then, my profits started going down as well. And then I moved to the Netherlands to be with my partner currently. And that changed things a little bit because the cost of living here is a lot more expensive, of course. So I have to think of other ways that I could make an income. And so I've been fidgeting with that a little bit. So that's kind of where I'm at right now, is how else can I make an income? And then my father passed away in 2022, and then he left me with a piece of land back in Bangkok, which took us a while, but we eventually managed to sell the land. So a bit of real estate coming in here with my moon in the second house in astrology. So that makes a lot of sense why I would be making some income from property. But the money that I made from that, a lot of it is put into the bank so that I can gain interest, quarterly, interest. So that's kind of like a passive. So YouTube is passive income. Getting interest from the bank is like passive income. Readings is not passive. That's something that's, of course, much more active. And some of that money I also gave to my mom to, let her live her life and to build her a house in Bangkok, a nice place for her to live. And a part of that money also goes into investing a home that I'm buying here in the Netherlands with my boyfriend in the forest, which is where we're going to be moving. Ooh, more on that later. Very excited about that. And yes, so now I'm also collaborating with certain brands. So I'm getting free products and things, which is another really interesting path that I'm going down, is this path of exchange. It's like, so instead of having to go out buy clothes, I'm getting free clothes, right? So it's cutting out some of the expenses there. Collaborating with resorts and hotels. More on that later because I'm still in the process of that. But there, it's going somewhere very exciting. So I could travel, without having to pay all the costs of my travel, right? So reducing expenses on that part too. And I have a couple more ideas of various different income streams that I do want to be working on in the near and upcoming future. So you're going to be hearing more about that. But yeah, I think the idea here is that when it really comes to money, there isn't just one way to make money. And of course, coming from, a background and an entire family, my whole family earned income that was consistent. My dad worked for the government. My sister works for the government. They have a consistent income. So there was nobody to teach me how to do it. So I have to figure it out by myself. And I don't have a lot of money to invest in a course, which these courses can cost a lot too, right? So, or a mentor to help me with that. So they cost a lot. And so I'm kind of like doing things on my own first. And if it really doesn't work, then I would go down that route. But it seems to be working out with doing brand collaborations and affiliate marketing and things like that. I just started this journey and I'm very excited to see where it's going, by the way. But my point here is that what I do to make an income is finding different streams of income. So it doesn't just come from one thing. And it's something that I experiment with, I explore with, and I'm open to life. And I think that it's really important that I allow life to come to me too and show me the path. Like, for example, this land that I sold, life showed me this path. Starting a YouTube channel was a result of receiving an invitation from the universe to start a YouTube channel. When I get a reading from a client, it's because the client really sees me, really recognizes my talents, and they're coming to me, and I receive all of this, as a projector, right, in human design. So learning this is allowing me to tune into the near and upcoming future of generating more income streams that, will come my way. Like with these brand collaborations that I'm doing. Some of them reach out to me, some of them are invitations from like my boyfriend. He was like, oh, check out this brand. They have a brand ambassadorship program. And I'm like, oh, that's an invitation. Let's take it, But some of them I am reaching out as well, but I reach out only when I'm sensing that our values are aligning, right? Sometimes I'm sending out the invitation, but only when I really feel like there's a connection there, like we're aligning our values, of course. And I feel free. Life is so much freer this way. It's when I view the world from a place of possibility, trust, safety, thriving rather than surviving. It's so much freer. And I am not scared. And yes, some days I'm scared. Some days I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to run out of money in my bank account. But I don't. Because the universe gives you the right opportunity at the right time. The universe is not going to allow you to go homeless. You got friends, you got family if you do. If you don't, you got friends. Find a community of people that can be there to support you. You are not alone in this world. Open up, ask for help if you need to. Be vulnerable, right? But at the same time, like if you're staying with people or with a person just because it's codependency, then don't do that, But and there are days when it does feel scary. But like I said, the universe always has your back. And so most of the time, I do feel free. Now I can do what I want, when I want, like every single day. There's no, oh my God, I gotta go to class, Oh my God, I can't go to the toilet yet. I go to the toilet when I want to go to the toilet. I work when I want to work, and I do want to work every day, I think that we all do, like when we're passionate about what we're doing, we show up. And there isn't anything that I'm doing now. And by now, I mean, I would say the last few months. There was, at the beginning, it did feel like I've got to hustle, But that was because I got to get my YouTube channel going. I got to get my Instagram account going. That felt like a bit of a rush, a hustle. And especially when I get readings at the beginning, felt like this is so hard to do. I've got to spend so much time to plan it. But now doing a reading is easy. So now everything that I'm doing, I actually want to do from the bottom of my heart. And if there's something that I have to do in my day and I just don't want to do it, I try to have a bigger perspective of it. And if I really don't want to do it and I don't have to do it, I don't do it. And there's a lot of things that you don't actually have to do. And I feel very blessed to have a lot of people in my life right now that understand that. I'm so blessed to have people that are my soul sisters that understand the feminine way. And that is only possible because I put myself out there. I make YouTube videos, I make Instagram videos, I call in my tribe. I open the door to have invitations coming in. So, I mean, if you guys are watching this and you're experiencing something similar, I got you. We got you here. There's a tribe here for you. There's a community here. And I'm looking to find a way for maybe all of us to actually be able to connect. But I need to listen to my heart. I need to go with my own flow of things with that and see what works for both me and you guys, of course. But find your tribe. You're never alone. You'll never be alone. Love is out there in the world for you. You got this. You'll be okay. You'll be okay. You'll be okay. All right. I'm sending you guys so much love today. Bye.